Yechia Melech HaMashiach, how you doing, everybody? This is Edery. I have to clarify a few things about the Temple Mount and what's the connection to the terror attacks in Israel, what the Israeli government's doing, and what's the right approach. First of all, as I spoke about in my articles on mnglobal.ml, as you can see in the link in the description to our Messiah News Global website, where we publish articles connected to the redemption, the temple, Jewish people, and all kinds of things that are connected to that. We explain over there that there's a lot of misinformation going on in the Jewish and Muslim and Christian population regarding the Temple Mount. Al-Aqsa is the black building that's on the side or in the corner. It has a black dome, and the Dome of the Rock is not really supposed to be there technically. Not even according to Muslim faith does it really have a lot of significance. And it's supposed to move or be moved when the Jews need it. It is Jewish property, and it's the property of the temple. Important to note that the temple is where all the Jewish people pray towards. Wherever you are in the world, or wherever you are in Israel, you pray towards the Temple Mount, where the temple is supposed to be built. The only thing standing in the way, obviously the Jewish people have the state of Israel right now after the horrors of the Holocaust. And the only thing standing in the way of the Jewish people building the temple is that they need a king, a legitimate king from a religious perspective, to give the okay to build the temple. But that's the plan, and that's what we're working on. A lot of people are just waiting for the King Messiah, which can also be a king and has the same qualifications of a Jewish king, in order for him to give the okay to build the temple. But historically in the Jewish books we see that King Saul was a king before King David was. Shaul also means borrowed, like he was Shaul, he was on borrowed time. But that's another approach that the Jewish people should be looking at, which basically means that even though we don't have the Mashiach, the Rebbe King Mashiach, or whichever Mashiach the Jewish people are waiting for, the Orthodox community could get together and push in a democracy in Israel, in the democratic election process, to put a rabbi or someone of an important stature and to check with the halachic requirements of a Jewish king, not necessarily from the house of David, but a Jewish king that can give the okay to build the temple on the Temple Mount. That itself can bring in a lot of physical revenue. Obviously, from a spiritual perspective, that will be awesome. There are a lot of things that will happen in the temple and in the service of God on the Temple Mount in the third temple, which would benefit all religions and all races equally. That's because the Jewish people don't only pray for themselves; they also pray for all nations. They sacrifice 70 cows once a year to represent the 70 nations that God should bless the entire world. So the temple in Jerusalem, unlike people might think, is some kind of town center or some ancient concept of a town center. It's not that. Absolutely not. It is, explicitly explained in the Torah, in the Bible, starting with the tabernacle, which was pretty much an atonement for the golden calf. It is the system of kingdom the way God wants it in the world. The temple is, and Judaism in general, is an example of how the world is supposed to run. So that is the history. Now what happened lately is, first of all, there's been a very big percentage of interest in the Jewish community, in the Temple Mount, and the wall, the Western Wall, as some call it, is like the wall, the barrier between the Jewish people and their mindset of understanding what the redemption really is, and that they really need to bring about the intellectual awareness of the fact that we need a temple, and that's where we should be going. Obviously, 2,000 years of prosecution has done its way with depressing and pushing any elements of freedom out of the Jewish mind, and even now when people are waiting for the redemption, they're just waiting. They don't really want it to come. Before Gimel Tammuz, before the Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away, they had the perfect candidate, which halachically fit the criteria for being Messiah. Unfortunately, by the time most Jewish rabbis realized, not only in the Chabad movement but throughout the Jewish world, that the Lubavitcher Rebbe does qualify and could be Messiah and should be Messiah and should be pushed into that position by the masses, by that time the Jewish rabbis realized that the Lubavitcher Rebbe officially passed away, technically. Obviously, from a religious and Hasidic perspective, the Rebbe still lives. But that changes the ball game and makes us need more miracles in order for us to manifest it in a realistic way. Obviously, we can still wait for a revelation, but obviously the Rebbe told us that we have to do as much as we can, and he's putting it in our hands, which brings us again back to the first idea, which, studying how King David became king, you can see that he pretty much became king very slowly. First, he was running away from King Shaul, which was trying to kill him, and then a few people that were also running away from their communities for other reasons, because they were alcoholics or they had a lot of loans and they couldn't pay up, so they ran away from the villages. People were harassing them, so they joined King David. Eventually his family joined him, eventually his tribe joined him, and they built up a perimeter in Hebron. But even before that, there was a King Shaul, which established the kingdom. Obviously the prime time in the imperial age of the Jewish kingdoms was when King Solomon, the son of King David, ruled the entire world. Just like we saw the British Empire have its time of imperial glory in the world, and just like many other kingdoms had their time when they ruled the entire world. So unlike other religions, the Jewish people did not go out on a mass murder of everyone that doesn't agree with them, and the Jewish people, King Solomon, ruled the world in peace and in diplomacy, and no bloodshed was necessary in order for him to obtain control over the world. As we explain in our articles on our website, which you can find in the links in the description, Jewish people are not looking to dominate the world in any way, in a physical way, or to get into anyone's business. It's all about being a moral and ethic example for the world, and to be an advisor to the world on how to conduct itself. So that's all about the Temple Mount. I hope you understood. And the terror that's going on now and all these little petty things are pretty much people playing into the politics of things, instead of looking at the vision that their religion directs them, which is what we should all be doing. Our true and only Savior is to go back to the textbook and see what it says in the Bible, in the Old Testament. And each person of faith that can study his own religion. That's not the problem. It's not the issue, as long as we all trust in a super being, which gives us a breaker, for our morality. And as long as we don't kill, don't steal, don't rape, and don't justify any of those things, and obviously, go by the 7 laws of Noah, which pretty much are so basic and so simple that you'd have to be a psychopath or a sociopath to have a problem with those laws. Anyway, that's all for the Temple Mount. Obviously, the terror is unjustified, and obviously, Israel backing down from putting a checkpoint on the Temple Mount. I mean, there's another option: just let everyone go on the Temple Mount, just like they go down the street, and then just take away the entire military presence from the Temple Mount. Or cut down on almost all the laws on the Jewish people, on the tourists, and on the Muslims. Because obviously it's completely absurd to allow the only real threat, which is the Muslims, which shot and killed people on the Temple Mount, bringing weapons onto the Temple Mount. If they are not being checked when entering the Temple Mount, nobody should be checked entering the Temple Mount. And it just bends logic to not check those who are the most suspicious, just because you don't want to mess with them, because you don't have the power to mess with them. And you know what? If the Israeli government wants to back down from checking the Muslims, then they should back down from security checking all the tourists and the Jews, because they're not suspected of and they have no criminal record of doing any terror. So hopefully the fact that people are interested in the Temple Mount will yield positive results, and we will all witness King Messiah, and before that, or simultaneously with that, we will crown a king diplomatically, and we will embrace the redemption. We will look forward to change, and we will open up those veins and channels in our brain that are all about redemption, and we should, light up the darkness in our head and really take the redemption seriously. Just like we take our bills and our paycheck seriously, so too we should take the redemption and the redemptive process seriously. We should want to make change in the democratic electoral system in Israel. Very important. That's where we can make change. And for all those Americans who think that Israel's blowing up all day and night, guess what? You're wrong. You're seeing and you're hearing the political and extreme elements. America and Israel are pretty much just as peaceful on a day-to-day basis. You should come visit. Everyone should come visit Israel. Besides contributing and strengthening the economy here, just by visiting and touring, you are also going to witness the true spirit of life here that you cannot experience from fake news. All the best. Peace out. Yechia Melech. God bless America. God bless the Jewish people. God bless the state of Israel if they help bring forth God's plan as written in the Bible and not the opposite.